Zach, tell me about your dad.
Yeah, my mom and dad met in church in the mid 70s. They got married. They had my older sister, they had me, they had my younger sister in the stretch of 5 years. By the time my younger sister was born, there was already just so many problems. And, by 1985, 86, they were basically separated. And then were, I guess, legally divorced, not too long after that. I don't have a lot of stored positive memories of my parents, which is unfortunate. I think that there was just so much insanity that overrode what I have no doubt were many wonderful moments that I had between my mom and my dad. My dad had kind of like a sunken chest. He had this like kind of, divot here, and it's like our head would just fit perfectly into. And I can kind of sensory remember it, like his kind of like sweaty, smelly, hairy chest, but as a baby feeling safe in that. Another memory that, ironically in the moment was not a pleasant memory, but one I remember and one that I do fondly look back on. When my mom would spank us, it was always just with so much anger, right? She only got to the point of spanking us because she was so furious and broke wooden spoons on my butt and like, would just reel back and let one go in the middle of Mervin's because I was bothering her about something, like that kind of stuff. But my dad would always pray before he spanked us. It would really affect him, like emotionally. It was very hard for him. And so he would hold us afterwards. And I think I even remember him crying, like, having to dole out this discipline that was necessary. But it just showed, the tenderness of my dad's heart and the love that he had for me and my sisters. From 1989 until 2015, I saw my dad for 2 weeks out of the year, and we would swap howdies, as he would call it, every Sunday. Maybe it was every other Sunday. Sometimes it would be, many Sundays would go by and we wouldn't connect. And when we did connect, typically it was pretty surface level. It wasn't a lot of deep stuff, and my dad wasn't really that guy. Not that he didn't care deeply, but he didn't have the EQ to dive into a lot of stuff. He was always full of grace. He was always like, if I screwed up, if I was in trouble, if I was struggling, there would definitely be times where I had no idea who to turn to. And it was this essentially stranger that I would see a few weeks a year, but that was on the phone that I knew was my dad. He would be a voice of calm, and he would be a voice of peace, and he would be a voice of love. Those are good memories. I mean, as I became an adult, he was coming and he would visit me. You remember him coming and staying with me. Every time he'd come, he'd stay with me for 2 weeks in LA, and he'd come to work with me, whether it was on Less Than Perfect or Chuck or whatever. And he was always Mr. Levi, which was always so funny because he was Mr. Pugh, and he didn't mind. He was proud of me. But he would always say, that, son, I'm proud of you for all that you've accomplished um, in your career, but I'm most proud of you for your heart for people. By the time that he died, it was unfortunate because we had gone into this kind of last season of our relationship together, which was much more disconnected than it ever had been. I was grateful that the girls had really embraced him by that point, and he had kind of this new identity as a grandfather. But when I was really struggling and in the darkness and didn't have any, I mean, save my actual brothers like you, my chosen family, I didn't have parents. I didn't have people to be there to really help walk me through that. And my dad was not capable. He was not capable of facing a lot of hard truths that I had to face. And I did a lot of therapy, and I did a lot of forgiving, and just understanding that that's kind of where he was. Like I can't be mad at him for not having that in his toolbox. And I know that, like, in moments like this, like in genuine moments of genuine curiosity and moments to unpack it, um, like you said, it's catharsis. When we lose people that we love, even people that we might not have had a close relationship with for a while or whatever. I mean, it's particularly hard when you're losing someone that you're really close with, because they're a part of your daily routine. My dad was a part of my sister's daily routine. He was not a part of my daily routine. So there's that. There's that part of it that made it, I think, an easier blow for me. But also because I look at both of their deaths as relief. And my dad, I mean, to have thyroid cancer just come up out of nowhere and metastasize, and this man who so much of his identity was as with a beautiful voice to sing, and for the end of his life, for months, for all that to be gone, for him not even be able to really talk or communicate, let alone sing, and just watching him wither away. And that's a shell. That's this incredible but still temporal shell that we are given. I try to see it in that way. I try to say, okay, let them go be with God. Let them go dance and sing.
So, along with the physical separation, it seems like maybe you were already grieving.
Oh, yeah.
You're a dad now. Uh, Tell me about some of the things that you learned from your dad that you're hoping to carry into this new season of your life, and what are some of the things that you're hoping that you don't repeat?
I had this really, well, a few very profound moments, right after Henson was born. I'm looking down at Henson, and immediately I'm transported to the heart and mind and little literal eyes of my parents looking at me fresh out of the womb. And no matter how my life played out, it started in love and hope. Them looking at me and being overjoyed that I had 10 fingers and 10 toes. And it gave me even more just empathy for them. I want Henson's life to always feel like there is not a single thing that he could ever do that would ever separate him from my love. And that he would look back at his life and he would have a hard time remembering bad things. And he would have a really easy time remembering good times. One of the other kind of profound moments that I had early on in holding him, I was kissing his head. I just had this moment where I started thinking to myself, when is the last time I get to kiss his head? Like, at what age does he be like, Dad, now I want this. It's embarrassing or whatever, right? And I started thinking about that, and then I started thinking, well, but eventually he'll get older and not so embarrassed, and then we'll be both adult versions of ourselves, and we'll embrace, and I'll still kiss him on the cheek or kiss him on the forehead or whatever. And then I had the thought, oh, when's the last time he kisses me on the forehead? Like me kissing my dad on the forehead when he was in the hospital, and man, it hit me like a ton of bricks to watch in just a flash, like in my mind. He just, we're immediately there. Like, it's that fast. It's going to happen that fast.